the cosmic cousin of Neapolitan ice cream, an Australian flavor called Iced Vovo, and a Gelato Sandwich. This week, it's all about frozen treats.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. This is the place where we talk food and travel here on the Destination Eat Drink podcast, but also on the Destination Eat Drink YouTube channel and on destinationeatdrink.com. And this week, we're in the dog days of summer, so I thought we'd do a show all about frozen treats. But first, if all you foodie travelers could do me a favor and share the podcast with your friends, that would be much appreciated. It sure helps the show grow when you share the podcast. And if you're able, please consider a one-time or recurring contribution to Destination Eat Drink. You can do so in any amount at buymeacoffee.com/Destination Eat Drink. And thank you very, very much. Everyone loves to cool down in the summer with a frozen treat, so on this show, we're trying ice cream and gelato in Italy, of course, but also Canada, St. Louis, and Australia. And I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Kevin Durkee is the big cheese at Culinary Adventure Company, a food tour outfit that takes hungry travelers around Toronto. We talk about a famous local ice cream from the Canadian Maritimes. One of my favorite websites, I don't know if you're familiar with this, is Gastro Obscura, and they go through dishes, regional dishes, unusual regional dishes. And I love, whenever I go to a new place, I always go to Gastro Obscura to find out what I should be trying. And when I looked up Nova Scotia on Gastro Obscura, I came up with something called Moon Mist ice cream. So I said to myself, I got to ask Kevin about Moon Mist ice cream.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Now, moon mist is an interesting thing. Again, it is super regional, and you pretty much only find it in the Maritimes, particularly in Nova Scotia. To describe it to your listeners, it is a mix of flavors in one ice cream. When we think of sort of the classic or maybe the most original mixed ice cream, you need to go back to something like a Neapolitan or what was also called Harlequin ice cream from Italy. And historically, that was a mix to represent the Italian flag. You would have a green or a light white flavor, typically pistachio. You'd have this white stripe that was pretty much vanilla bean, and you'd have red, which is traditionally cherry. Neapolitan ice cream sort of got moved around when it sort of found its legs in North America, and was much easier to make chocolate rather than pistachio, vanilla, and strawberry. So many people might have that in their mind. Moon Mist is the cosmic cousin of that, if you will. It is purple, banana, and blue. And there's two recipes. Most time you'll find the yellow being banana flavor. The purple will be grape flavor. And then there's another little sort of mix on the last one, which will be blue. It will either be a blue raspberry or a bubble gum. The bubble gum, of course, and banana and grape is just a sensory overload of sweet and delicious flavors. But the blue raspberry typically is a little bit more of my favorite when I look for it. And again, you can find it at local ice cream parlors. There's a couple of local dairies that are producing it for the grocery trade. But the grape, banana, and blueberry Moon Mist ice cream is incredible. If you're lucky enough to find one with the bubble gum, a lot of bees this morning, the bubble gum. It's, like I said, you need to sit down after the sweet, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds almost like a kid's flavor. I don't know how sold I'd be on the bubblegum, but the raspberry one, I would definitely be on board with that one. So sign me up for a triple scoop of the Moon Mist when I get to Nova Scotia.
I don't know if you want to go triple scoops there, Brent.
Oh, really? That's going to be overload
it's a fair bit, but it's a summer staple. It's a great little scoop to enjoy somewhere along your Nova Scotia and maritime travels here in Canada.
Pete Manzo is the founder of Eat St. Louis Food Tours. He talks about some great gelato, including one that's only made at Christmas time.
I'm trying to think what else there is, because You get me talking about sweets. That's
Well,
my
how about
favorite
then?
category.
How about
of food.
gelato then? So we're in an Italian neighborhood. There must be fantastic gelato here.
Oh,
I'm a self-professed gelato snob, so I'm always looking for the best gelato. Where would you send me if I were in St. Louis, Pete?
hands down, Gelato Diriso. Gelato Diriso is owned by Larry and Maureen Fuse. They own another restaurant on the hill called Lorenzo's, and then they ended up opening up this little boutique gelato shop on the hill. And I would say at least half of the people that I take there have told me that it's the best gelato that they've had outside of Italy. And I agree. I absolutely agree. And I'll tell you why, because I know that everything is made in small batches there. I've watched them make it. I have seen that all of the non-milk ingredients are still imported from Italy. The milk itself they source, it's very natural. It tastes just like the good stuff in Italy. And I tell you, around the holidays, they they make, well, first of all, let me just say that, like, when I say small batch, that means that they make one little pan of it. Like, I
Right,
really don't,
right,
I
right.
don't remember what the size is, but it's just one little pan. And when they run out of that flavor, there isn't another one in the back. They'll swap it out
Right.
for another flavor. So,
Right.
so there's usually a line when we go, and there's certain flavors uh, that kind of stand out to me. Like their dark chocolate is almost black, and it is so fudgy. And when they put it out, it's gone within like a couple hours. And then at Christmas. So you've heard of spumoni, right?
Sure.
Spumoni, they make a house-made spumoni,
Mm,
and they only make it at Christmas time because it's so labor intensive. You have to make three different flavors
right.
and then layer it in this pan. And they also put their own little twist on it. They've got, I believe theirs is pistachio. There is like a cherry with candied cherries in it.
Oh my God.
I know. And then and I can't remember if I don't think they use the dark chocolate because that would be too overwhelming. I believe it's like a milk chocolate that they put in there. But
Mm.
it is just, oh God, it is so great.
And you can only get it at Christmas. Got to go there at Christmas time, I think. Monique Bayer has over a decade of experience taking visitors around her city of Melbourne, Australia. She talks about the local flavors infused into the gelato of Melbourne.
And the lady who owns the gelato shop. And this is actually quite common in Melbourne with our very, very good range of gelaterie. That a lot of the people that own them have actually gone to study gelato at this place in northern Italy that is kind of commonly referred to as Gelato University, just outside of Bologna in northern Italy. So you can go there and do courses, and it's really where you learn how to make it as an Italian would require.
You know, Monique, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because what you don't know is that I was a gelato maker for a few years, and I went to Gelato University. I
Off
didn't.
you go.
I didn't go to Italy, but the guy who taught the course, he came over to the U.S. from Bologna and taught us gelato making, and off we
Amazing.
went and started making gelato. So I'm familiar with Gelato University. The company that runs it is Carpigiani, who
Yep.
manufactures gelato machines. It's a great.
Yep.
They are the gold standard for gelato machines. So if you see a gelato place and you look in the back in the kitchen and you see they have a Carpigiani, that's a really good sign. But anyway, not to interrupt you, tell me more about
Not
gelato
at
in
all.
Melbourne.
So the beautiful thing about the place that we go is they have all the classics done really well, your pistachio and also your lemons, sorbetti and all that kind of thing. But they also have this ever-changing list of specials, which sometimes they throw in really delicious Italian flavors like a buffalo ricotta with almond and lemon, and sometimes they do Australian favorites. They'll take a local candy flavor and turn it into a gelato, which is always popular with the locals. And sometimes it means I have to do a little bit of translation about what's on the specials board. Brent, have you ever heard of a cookie called an Iced Vovo?
Iced Vovo? No, never. It sounds interesting, though. Tell me about it.
It's a picture paints 1,000 words. So if the listeners are interested, they can just Google Iced Vovo. Vovo is just VOVO, but it's essentially a little shortbread biscuit. Comes in a packet, so you can imagine the size of it. And then they pipe a little bit of marshmallow on, a little bit of raspberry jam, and coat it in coconut.
Ooh.
So you can imagine all those flavors rolled through some gelato. It's just kind of one of the funny little specials that they sometimes do at this place, which is kind of fun.
What's your favorite flavor of gelato? Mine is pistachio.
Pistachio is the classic. Pistachio and hazelnut are definitely the classics. My particular favorite is something called honeycomb, which I find very interesting that many of my American guests have never heard of honeycomb. Sometimes if I translate it to something like sea toffee or sponge toffee,
right,
that rings a bell for some people. But often I kind of have to explain it in another way. But yeah, a vanilla ice cream with chocolate coated honeycomb smashed up and mixed through it is a very delicious thing. Obviously not traditional Italian, but something that we definitely find in Melbourne. And the beautiful thing I like about the gelato, the place that we go to, is that one of the overarching principles is that everything they put in their gelato must be made from scratch. So if they are doing Iced Vovo flavor, they have made their own Iced Vovos first. And of course, they make their own honeycomb first, and they make it with real honey. So rather than the commercial candy bar kind of, mostly made with sugar flavor, you do get this beautiful kind of taste of real honey through the gelato as well, through the kind of candy swirl, which is delicious.
Oh, sounds great. These folks, they are people after my own heart, because when I was making gelato, this is what I would call putting on my mad scientist hat, and just figuring out different flavors that go together. And we would grow lemongrass, for example, in our backyard in a big pot, and I would infuse lemongrass into different flavors and stuff like that. So this sounds like a place that I definitely need to go to when we come to Melbourne. Enrica Bruno is a foodie tour guide in her city of Palermo for Culinary Backstreets. She tells me about a sloppy frozen treat. And one thing that they do in Palermo that I loved was the gelato on the brioche bun, which is totally delicious and decadent. But my favorite place, since I've last been to Palermo, my favorite place, Brioschia, has since closed. So let's talk gelato, but you have to tell me at some point what your favorite place is, Enrica, so I have a new favorite place when I come to Palermo, because my favorite place closed.
Okay, that's not easy, because gelato is also is good everywhere here. Of course, I have my favorite spots, but it's harder to find bad gelato. Gelato is. It's not easy to talk about gelato, because gelato is another world. I mean, you can find different, of course, we can eat the gelato in different ways. So in a cup, in a cone, or as you correctly said, in a brioche. It's like a sandwich. It's like a gelato sandwich. But our brioche is not like a flat brioche, but is, we say, a brioche con tuppo. Tuppo is the bun, the small bun on top of a brioche. It's for us like a proper meal that usually we have lunch, especially in summertime with the brioche congelato. It's not easy to eat because you risk to, get very, very
it gets
dirty.
everywhere.
Exactly. So I always, when I'm with my customers, teach them how to eat the gelato brioche. But first of all, you need to take the bun on top of the brioche, and you need to use the bun as a spoon. Okay, so you need to take your gelato with this small tuppo, with this small bun. Then you eat your gelato, and in the meantime, you fold your brioche. So at the end, you will eat like a proper gelato sandwich. Okay, so in Palermo, the tradition of gelato is very old. Actually, the gelato was invented by the Arabs with the name sherbet, which is the sorbet. Okay, and in the past it was made with the snow from Mount Etna, from our volcano. Flavored with a little bit of like orange juice or lemon juice. The gelato became the gelato we mean today on the second half of the 17th century by Francesco Procopio de Coltelli, who used a very old machine that his father used for making the granita, the ice slush. And he mixed together with sugar and other, flavors. So in Palermo, if you can find a good gelato everywhere, is not the same as for the granita. Okay, so the granita is more from the east coast of the island. So I always recommend in Palermo to taste more the gelato than the granita. We have many artisanal ice cream makers in Palermo who don't use the powder, the industrial powder, but they use the real ingredients. Okay, for example, pistachios. Well, pistachios, of course, pistachio is one of my favorite flavors. So I always order brioche with pistachio and nocciola, which is the hazelnut. Also, we grow many hazelnuts in Sicily. Pistachio is very famous because also pistachios were brought here by the Arabs, and for them, pistachios became like the main income for several centuries. In fact, pistachios were known as the green gold of Sicily. So pistachio for sure is a flavor that you should try in a brioche, but we also have very, very, I would say, vintage flavor that we try to offer during our tours, because otherwise people don't find by themselves. For example, I don't know if you ever tried the jasmine flavor. The jasmine flavor is an amazing flavor that, again, my grandmother used to get when she was young. The jasmine, we have two main flowers in Sicily: jasmine and orange blossom. So in the past, in order to give flavor to like a healing water that used to heal the viper bites. So the jasmine flowers were put in this very sour water, just to give more flavor and to give, the possibility to have like a more pleasant drink as a medication. Then many ice cream makers decided to make a gelato with the jasmine flavor using the proper flowers of jasmine. And in the past, it was sprinkled a little bit with cinnamon. So today, very nice and very also refreshing flavor, especially in our very warm, summer evenings, for example, is having a brioche with, or a cone, if you don't want to get too full, with jasmine and cinnamon together. My favorite gelateria, I would say I have two favorite gelateria. One today is Il Signor di Carbognano. Actually, they are located in two different areas of the town. Il Signor di Carbognano is is near Brioscia, when Brioscia, your favorite gelateria, was near the Politeama Theater. So it's in the most elegant area of the town, in the where people used to go to shop, for example. And another very, very nice gelateria is instead in the historical center, and it's Roro, which is managed by a woman, which I like. It's a woman business. And this lady is still making the gelatos with the real ingredients, not with the industrial dust. And the powder, and she keeps the gelato in the pozzetti, we call. So when you go there, you don't see the the gelato in the trays, but in a sort of a steel cylinder with a lid on top, which was a very old-fashioned way to preserve better the gelato.
Okay, nothing like a cone to cool you down, or maybe a brioche with some gelato on it. Thanks to Enrica for sharing her gelato knowledge, and thanks to Monique, Pete, and Kevin too. I've got links to all of them in the show notes. That's it for this week. Next week, we're in Seoul, South Korea for fried lobster on a stick, Spam is a luxury item, and what we can learn about Korea from the TV show MASH. Don't miss that. Until then, I've got so much happening over at DestinationEatDrink.com. I just posted a video. It's about the best sweets in San Sebastian, Spain. You can see that by clicking on the video tab at DestinationEatDrink.com or by going to my YouTube channel at DestinationEatDrink946. I also just posted a story about Portuguese truffles. Ever since we moved to Portugal almost 3 years ago, I've been convinced that there are truffles growing in eastern Portugal. The conditions are right, and there's truffles not too far away, just over the border in Spain. And I finally found some for sale in the market here in Portugal. I wrote a story about it. You can read that at DestinationEatDrink.com/blog. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson. I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.